Well, welcome to our, I think, much anticipated message on Christians and artificial intelligence, or AI. Why are we taking a full Sunday, including tonight, to talk about AI? Are we just trying to be a super cool church showing that, we're relevant with the times? No, that's never our approach. In fact, sometimes we go out of our way to be uncool here at Oceanside. Here's why we need to talk about this now. Unlike other technological developments or major societal or cultural shifts, the rapid speed and influence and use of AI is historic. Mike Langford, a theologian at Seattle Pacific University, accurately points out that tech developments had previously occurred where they developed slowly over time so that we could discern the pros and cons, we could weigh the ethics and prepare ourselves. But AI innovation, he says, has happened so quickly that we haven't had time to develop wisdom about how we use it. Interaction with or use of AI has become almost unavoidable. And so we must ask the question as a Christian, what should be my approach to using AI or to live in a world of AI? Because what you believe about God will influence how you utilize technology. This morning we'll talk about 4 things, and then tonight we can do more or expand on these. But I want to talk about the benefits of AI, the dangers of AI, how to live whole lives in the age of AI, and then how to offer hope in a world of AI. Or said more simply, we'll talk about the helps, harms, healing, and hope when it comes to AI. First, let me say that I can, of course, only scratch the surface in a morning message. So whether you're looking for basics like what is AI, where did it come from, or want to go deeper, or just looking for practical tips and tools for navigating AI in your life and family, I encourage you to come back tonight for a conversation at 6 o'clock for a more thorough discussion together with someone who has spent considerable time researching the topic. That's not me, that's Joanne over here in our 9 a.m. service. So before you think I am just absolutely no fun and just old-fashioned glass half empty, Grinchy Joseph, railing against culture and all things fun, I did, after all, preach against Santa last Christmas. Let's start with recognizing some potential positives, because I know this will be a rebuttal of some to me raising any concerns about AI. Let me recognize AI's potential for good, such as diagnosing diseases, developing medicines or vaccines that can save or prolong lives, find missing children, mitigating the risk of disasters, provide free therapy for those who can't afford it, make farming and feeding people more productive. And I could, of course, go on. AI can do all kinds of really good and amazing things. It also has the potential, when used properly, to enhance our communication and even creativity, as well as increase our productivity. Some of you have jobs where you've likely found it very helpful. So yes, AI can be used for good. And as Christians, we should always try to use and redeem the tools that exist in the world for good in the world. But the reason I'm not spending as much time on the benefits of AI is not just because I'm a hater. It's because those are already regularly talked about, especially by AI companies and tech giants, because of course it benefits them. It's easy to find and talk about the benefits. What's less popular is to point out the immense potential harms. So let's move on to some of the harms or dangers of AI. As is often the case, sometimes we're very quick to adopt new technology without reflecting on the consequence or impact that it may have on our souls or on the souls of others. Let me just rattle off some of the concerns or harms concerning AI. Intellectual theft or integrity, social media algorithms that purposely cause addiction, division, and polarization, AI-induced psychosis, meaning it can be used as or like a drug, purposely deceptive chatbots, the environmental impact of AI databases, which is a big deal, data centers. Like any technological advances, the potential from AI to widen the gap between rich and poor, have and have-nots, those with access to this information and technology and those without it, and the power imbalance that creates. The use of AI for crime, corruption, and of course sexual sin and deviation, just flat out inaccurate information. Right? When using AI, there's no guarantee the information is correct or true. And then perhaps the biggest concern or harm that AI causes, which is the blurring of the lines between what is real and what is not. Truth and deception, and the distrust and instability and anxiety that can cause in society. The new question or debate of our time is not agreeing whether or not, or debating whether or not something is right or wrong. It's debating whether or not something is real or not, whether or not something actually happens, which creates a completely unstable society where reality becomes more and more difficult to determine in the digital world. We've probably already reached the tipping point where we have to doubt or question almost everything we see or read or hear as to whether it's real or AI generated. How many have had the experience already of being sent a video, whether it's cute and funny and whatever, or potentially very alarming, only to realize later that it wasn't real? Most of us have had that experience. It's scary how real AI-generated content seems. So I advise you to be very discerning in what you see, hear, and read. But perhaps you're thinking, I'm not doing any of those things, right? I'm not using AI in any harmful kinds of ways. There is still concern, even in innocent usage or dependence on AI, when it comes to how we are formed and shaped as Christian disciples. So that's where I want to put the rest of my focus, because I think it's easy to list all the helps AI provides. It's certainly easy to rail against the dangers of AI. The hard work comes in learning together how to live whole lives that bring healing and hope to our ever-increasing, fractured, broken, and lonely world. So in other words, how can we live in a way that, as our text from Philippians 4:8 says, is in accordance with things that are true, right, noble, pure, lovely, and admirable? So the second half here is mostly application about living whole lives in the age of AI. And I have two applications here on how to live whole lives that can bring healing to ourselves as well as healing and hope to our culture in the age of AI. And that is creating as a gift of love and community as a gathering of love. Let's start with the first one, creating as a gift of love. AI should not become a substitute for the sacredness of creating. Maybe the biggest ethical question or just human issue related to AI is content creation, where we now have the ability to have almost any content created, crafted, and curated with just a simple prompt with little efforts. As humans made in the image of our Creator God, there is something sacred about the process of creating. In fact, many theologians argue that the primary way we reflect the image of God is actually through creating. Genesis 1 teaches that we are made in the image of God. And what is the primary thing we learn about and know about God in that opening chapter of the Bible? Well, it's that He creates. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. God creates by starting with this formless chaos of materials. And in that time, waters were considered the materials that the gods created with. And throughout the Bible, waters are symbolic of chaotic darkness and disorder. And God creates from that material. So the work of creating is essential to what it means to be human, created in God's image or likeness. God creates, and we image God by creating. P.D. Anthony says that making things is an essential human activity, necessary, enjoyable, inseparable from human existence. Every time you create, whether with your hands, your mind, whether you design a website or a house or a garden, build something, draw a picture, knit a quilt, write a poem or story, you are fulfilling your calling as a human being created in the image of God. In an insightful article titled How AI Short Circuits Art, Jared Bogus mentions the theologically inspired cookbook, The Supper of the Lamb, where Robert Farrar Capone argues that any recipe involving shortcuts inevitably diminishes the flavors and textures of a dish. And so Bogus says here, think of canned potatoes versus fresh potatoes peeled by hand and boiled at home. And then he quotes Capone, who says, technique must be acquired, and with technique, a love for the very process of cooking. No artist can work simply for results. He or she must also like the work of getting them. So in this illustration, AI is kind of like canned potatoes. Sure, you can use them, but it will diminish the joy of the process. It will diminish the final product. Something will just feel or taste off, and will diminish the feeling of love for both you and perhaps those you are serving the potatoes to. There's something spiritual and beautiful about the act of creating something. Let me give you an example from my life. Like a lot of things you do for your work, for me, writing messages is very hard work, indeed a bit of an art form. But entering into the creative process of trying to bring order out of what feels like chaos, especially on Monday morning, is a way I not only reflect the image of God and join in the work of the Spirit who hovers over the chaotic waters, but also as a way to create and offer something to others and to God as a gift. Could I short circuit the writing process by using AI? 100%. I could have gotten all my points or outline for this message and probably most of the content by simply asking AI for a Christian approach to AI or something similar. Now, I know what you're thinking. Joseph, surely your amazing and creative and pithy points and message outlines must be AI generated. They are just so good. And thank you for that. That's very kind of you to say. But believe it or not, they are my own creations, for better or for worse. But here's the key. In the process of creating and writing, my love for God, and especially my love for others, grows as I lovingly prepare this gift to share. And indeed, I encounter God in the process as I struggle and labor through a scriptural text or the writing process, asking God to help me find the right points or applications. And I'm often even moved to tears or to my knees in the process. Is the increased efficiency and productivity of AI worth losing that? The temptation with AI is to treat our work or creating as something that simply just needs to get done and be finished, rather than a labor of love and worship to God and in service to my neighbor. And so perhaps there are times, not all the time, but perhaps there are times where saying, I'll just ask ChatGPT is actually not best for us. Like canned potatoes, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because it benefits you in the short term doesn't mean it's best for you or others in the long term. Our ability to create is a gift from God. We don't want it to atrophy because of AI. To quote Boges here one last time, AI leaves us bored and disengaged, both as creators and as an audience. We want to be involved. God designed us to make things, have ideas, and interact with other people. And that last part transitions us to the second application of living whole lives, which is community as a gathering of love. AI should not become a substitute for the sacredness of human interaction. We are in a loneliness epidemic, and AI is making it worse. At least a quarter of Canadians, probably more, but all the studies show at least a quarter of the Canadians are lonely, depressed, and feel isolated. Modern day loneliness, a lack of in-person community, is a social and health crisis. It leads to depression, hypertension, all kinds of physical, mental, and spiritual difficulties. You probably know this, and I could cite all kinds of studies, but spending our life on screens and in digital interactions or connections and subjecting ourselves to algorithms designed to addict us is harmful to us as people. So being in community with others has never been more important. You've probably heard of or read about the decline in society of the so-called third place, right? A place of gathering outside of the two main places of home and work. And of course, historically, the church has been one of, if not the main, third place that brings and binds people together. And most, not all, Technological advancements have alienated us more than brought us together, pulled us away from community rather than draw us in, made our lives more complicated, not less, and I would say have diminished our humanity more than enriched it. And that's likely true of AI. One person has called the main threat of AI, quote, a quiet atrophy of our ability to forge genuine human connection. Nothing can replace the depth of real relationships and community. One of my favorite bloggers, Jason Moorhead, says that our goal should be interacting directly with real human ideas put forth by real human beings in real human contexts. We should be wary of any so-called conveniences offered by technology that eliminate the need for or interaction with other people. And as believers, we should provide alternatives to help combat the temptation for people to choose the ease of non-human interaction over human interactions and real community. How can we do that? Well, that's where I want to close, highlighting the hope and the opportunity the rise of AI creates for the church to be more appealing than ever. So let's talk about hope, an opportunity for the church to shine. It'd be easy to just make this a doomsday, depressing message on how the world is spiraling into deeper darkness and despair and depravity and just blaming technology for it all. I'll be perfectly honest, my first feelings when it comes to AI is sadness, fear, anxiety. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I am grieving the loss of a non-AI world. Right? I personally don't want to live in a world of AI, and I'm attempting as much as possible to live an AI-free life. And maybe you feel the same way, feeling overwhelmed, or you're just grieving that the world as you knew it just a year ago no longer exists and never will again, more than likely. And I encourage you to come up with some kind of policy for your life when you will and won't use AI, and perhaps Joanne can help us a little bit with that tonight. But in thinking hard about this, I am deciding purposefully to move forward in faith, not fear. To see this as an opportunity for the local church to shine like never before. I believe the rise of AI actually presents an opportunity for the witness of the church to shine brighter than ever by being a gift and gathering of love to our community. I believe that the increasing use of AI will only increase the value and importance of what we do here. This kind of community is and will become increasingly rare, and therefore more and more of a gift and gathering of love that we can offer the world. And people are going to be starving for the kind of community that a church can offer. One of authentic creating as a gift of love, of authentic community as a gathering of love. A church that doesn't prize efficiency over everything. A church that serves others even if it is inefficient and has no direct benefit to it or doesn't impact its bottom line. For example, this is a part of what our Good Food Partnership does. It tries to make healthy food convenient and affordable to get while also receiving real human interaction in the process, as opposed to potentially maybe ordering cheap, unhealthy food through an app or a drive-through and barely interacting with human beings. Or studies have shown that the primary way AI users interact with generative AI is therapy and companionship. That's the number one use. Citing its free cost and judgment-free companionship as benefits. So how can we offer an alternative? A great example is that we now offer free on-site counseling with a human licensed counselor from our church in order to provide a convenient solution at no cost, overcoming barriers that perhaps people have to getting counseling that causes them then to turn to AI. We can also make sure this is a judgment-free space where people feel welcomed and accepted, things that people are now looking to AI companions for instead. A great example is our Wednesday 55 Plus Coffee and Connect, which provides friendship and companionship for our church and outside community. We can do and be what the church has always been and done, which is provide a prophetic witness and a compelling vision of a different way of life under the love and rule and reign of King Jesus. Living our lives by a completely different story and rhythm than the culture around us. And so at the end of the day, this is what AI is causing me to do, to throw myself more upon Jesus and upon his church. And I hope it'll do the same for you. As Marcello comes, I have some reflection questions for us. You will actually discuss these in your life groups. That's the great benefit of life groups. It exemplifies a lot of what we've talked about, but it gives you time to really talk about the message in deeper detail. So you're welcome to discuss this now with your spouse or people nearby if you want, or you can just kind of jot down or start journaling by yourself now or later. You can take a picture of these. There's going to be 7 of them, so we'll flip back and forth every 30 seconds or so just so you can kind of see them. But just quickly, a couple, read Genesis 1 and 2 and write down all the instances where you see creating and community. Talk about what are your first feelings when it comes to AI. What has been your approach so far? What are some areas of it in your life where you can embrace this slow process of creating and offer it as a gift of love to people around you? Where have you been tempted to rely on AI? How can you prioritize community? And then work on developing a policy for your life, the last one there, on when you will and won't use AI. If you have questions for tonight, if you text them now this morning, we'll be able to compile them, and that'll just give our speaker tonight a little bit of context for what people are thinking, and perhaps we can address some of those. So if you text your questions to that number, we will incorporate them into our discussion tonight. You can also take this time to prayerfully complete the third service survey as well. So we're just going to take a few minutes. Can't do it all now, of course, but start, and then I will close us with a benediction. So let's sit with this for a couple minutes, and then we'll dismiss.